scary skeletons send shivers down my spine. It's time to play Splatterhouse 3, so sit back and unwind. It's the Halloween season, and this game has graphic violence which may not be suitable for younger players. Rated MA13. Mature audiences 13 and above are the only ones allowed to play Splatterhouse 3. He's back with 16 megs of terror and multiple endings, so give Rick a hand. Aim high. You gotta have guts. Yes, and you gotta spray them everywhere because you have to save your wife Jennifer and your son David. This game is on the cutting edge, so stretch yourself to the limits as you play Splatterhouse 3, exclusive to the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive, and also exclusive to this format, because despite the game's popularity and the series franchise as a whole having a great deal of popularity, it was not included on the Genesis Mini, probably because they wanted to keep a family-friendly rating, and this game does not have one, although by the standards of today's games like Resident Evil, I don't think you can really compare. It's rather cartoonish, childlike gore. It's not graphic to a modern audience, but I suppose by the standards of when I was a kid, this definitely would have been, all puns intended, the bleeding edge of video games. Grab your popcorn, grab your candy corn, grab your popcorn balls with a big ball of candy stuck in the middle. It's time to play a Sega Genesis classic, perfect for the spookiest month of the year. It is time for Splatterhouse 3. One of the things that I really like about this Namco game is the cinematic opening video, which really gives you a feel for the plot of the game and what you're in for, even if you've never played any of the Splatterhouse games before. It really gets you into the mood and captures that cinematic feel that you want to envelop a game in, because the good games make you forget you're playing a game and suck you into that environment. This intro, top notch. The lettering, however, I will say, the bleeding Splatterhouse letters, a little bit comical. As I said, there's a very cartoonish style of violence to this. I take this game seriously and I play it seriously, but it's a fun game that just doesn't really evoke feelings of dread or terror unless you really worked yourself up into some kind of lather by watching like 20 monster slasher horror type films in a row before you played this game. I will say this much. They did build a lot of suspense around the idea that there's a limited amount of time to rescue your wife and child. If you don't complete missions in the game in the prescribed time limits, they're dead. And you can get 4 different endings, as the back cover of the game box alluded to, based on whether or not you rescue both of them, one of them, or neither of them. So there is some dramatic tension, and the cutscenes, I really do dig them, like this one here with your wife. But the gameplay, the pixelated monsters that you fight, they don't evoke the same feeling of terror, nor does that logo that looks more like spray paint dripping from a sprayer that sprayed too much spray paint onto a surface. It doesn't really look like dripping blood to me. It looks more like graffiti letters where they purposefully bled out, no pun intended in that case, bled out the can to give it a little bit of stylistic edge. Also, this intro was obviously lost in translation syndrome. Kotaku would have a good piece about that, or perhaps how the West was worst on Stop Skeletons from Fighting, because I don't think they meant to say you should not wonder aimlessly. They meant wander aimlessly, wandering around, not wondering like, I wonder what I should do. Let me think about this for a minute. No, they meant wander as in don't dawdle, don't stroll, because you're on a fixed amount of time, and if you don't do this in the amount of time, everybody's dead. They're all dead, Dave. Everybody's dead, Dave. Yes, Dave, they're all dead, Dave. Even Kachansky, she's dead too, Dave. That's a shout out to the great Sudoku, fellow Red Dwarf fan. And actually, Jonathan Courtwright, if he's watching, also a Red Dwarf fan. But here's our protagonist, Rick, with his hockey mask on, and Jennifer is cowering inside the mansion, dreading the fate that awaits her from the evil that lurks inside. And our time limit is up there at the top. We've got just under 6 minutes to get to her before she gets killed. And I guess that alone would give the game an MA mature audience rating, because they're implying that a living person will end up dead. And I don't know. To me, it's like the whole issue with Night Trap. I realized these games were both controversial right around the same time that the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, or ESRB, first came into play. And my take on it is, okay, they got everybody whipped up into a frenzy. They got parents all scared that video games were causing their children to turn into monsters because the parents didn't understand video games and the kids couldn't explain it to the parents. So there was a huge disconnect, and powerful political people manipulated that to their advantage and held hearings and tried to make video games the scourge of all mankind. But this is the kind of thing that happens every generation over and over again. It drives me nuts that people don't see this cycle repeating itself. Something always gets the blame. I mean, at one point, jukeboxes were the devil. Seriously, they thought kids dancing to music was going to make them followers of Satan. And at one time, pinball machines were the scourge of the devil, and they had to be destroyed by sledgehammers because they were promoting the sinful vice of gambling. Yeah, a pinball machine promotes gambling by giving you free plays if you get a high score. Oh, yeah, well, everything always gets the blame. Heavy metal music in the 80s? Oh, that was a big whipping boy when I was a little kid. Everybody blamed heavy metal music and claimed that the satanic messages in it were being used to subliminally control children. Obviously, that's a load of crap. And then later, rap music got the blame too. It shifted from heavy metal to rap music, and then it shifted from rap music to video games, and it goes on. Every generation, some politician tries to whip people up into a frenzy, have something to be scared of. Honestly, politics ought to be scarier than video games, because politicians create boogeymans out of thin air and scare everybody into being afraid of whatever they say. It's like, oh, here's what you should fear. Immigrants, they're the terror in this country. They cause all the problems, so be afraid of them, ban them, build walls, make them higher. Yeah, they're not the problem. The politicians are the problem, the ones making us afraid of everybody and everything and making us cower in our closets in fear. They're the real monsters, not video games, not movies, not music. I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent there. Anyway, I do like the design of the monsters in this game, even though I was talking about how this all looks cartoonish and you can't really take it seriously and get scared by it in that way. The pixel art throughout the game, it matches, how do I put it? It matches the level of the games from the era, and it's got a unique style to it that it takes the Splatterhouse series to the next level. Each one has looked better than the previous entries in the series, at least in my opinion. And I think Splatterhouse 3 really is the pinnacle of the series. This is why it's the only one that I have complete in box for Sega Genesis. Not that I shouldn't go out of my way to eventually get them all complete, but Splatterhouse 3 to me is like definitive. I almost think that's comparable to, in some ways, how I feel about Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 3, because Mega Man 2 was the first one that I played, so I'm always going to go back to that, and I'm always going to love it, and it's always going to be a great game that's a standard is my go-to. But in some ways, and I know a lot of people don't agree with me on this, I think Mega Man 3 is actually definitive. I like the fact that Proto Man is an antagonist slash protagonist in the game. I like Rush. I like the power-ups. I like the music in Mega Man 3. I think the Wily stages are a little bit better. I think Mega Man 3 is actually more of a definitive game, and I would say the same about Splatterhouse 3 as far as Splatterhouse games goes. I think they really got it right with this entry. I like the idea of a side-scrolling beat 'em up that also has a mansion layout floor plan where you have different entrances and exits that you have to take in order to reach your goal. Unfortunately, I took a wrong turn on my way through the mansion's first floor, so my time is already limited for this boss fight. And I did save my power up as the floating head instructed me to do at the beginning of the game, save them for the boss fight. But unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough time because it's been too long since I played this game. If I really wanted to show off, I should have done a practice run ahead of time before I actually started the video, but that's not how I roll. I'm giving you my authentic, I haven't played this in a few years, here it is, the Halloween season, time to play Splatterhouse 3 for all of my subscribers here at Mr. MegaManFan. And thank you to the 1,000 plus of you who've made this channel what it is so far. And if you like me playing these Sega Genesis games every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, go ahead and recommend the video to a friend, share it on social media, like the video, leave a comment below, do all those kind of things that every YouTube creator of content says that you're supposed to do. Or like Billiam said in one of his recent videos, this is the only thing that causes me to get a rush of tryptophan, and I need it to sleep. So, like the video, share it, or else I won't get the dose that I need. Well, for me, it's not that serious, although I did just lose a life in this boss battle, and that is serious because I ran out of time, and that means Jennifer's dead. She's dead, Dave. Everyone's dead, Dave. And if I don't win this battle, I'm dead too. Rick will not only fail to have saved his wife, he'll have failed to save his life. So I've got to defeat this monster. I do like the fact you pick up monsters and throw them pro wrestling style. I think that's one of the reasons Splatterhouse has always been appealing to me, or at least specifically in this case, Splatterhouse 3, because Rick's attacks, again, this is like, I'm talking about how this game was controversial back in the day, but it's also kind of cartoonish to me. Like, you're picking up monsters and throwing them around like pro wrestling action, real life pro wrestlers throwing other wrestlers around. I mean, in a horror movie, when would you ever see somebody do that? In a real fight for your life, would you suplex somebody over your head? Probably not. So, yeah. Anyway, Jennifer's dead, but the mask has some advice for us. Use your rage. Use it against him. Our evil foe, the evil source of terror that we're hunting down, and the mask that we're trying to shatter. You know, I wonder if maybe, just maybe, somebody that developed Majora's Mask, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, was a fan of Splatterhouse 3. I can't say that, I can't prove that, but you definitely wonder with the whole mask theme in this game, with the hockey-style mask that Rick wears, with the fact that we're trying to shatter a terror mask, with the mask that tells us what to do. It's, you know, it leads me to think, you know, maybe, just maybe, there was a little bit of influence on Majora's Mask. Or maybe just people like masks. You know, that does actually lend itself to the pro wrestling that I talked about earlier, because it's almost like Lucha Libre. If there was a character like this in Mexican wrestling, if there was a guy wearing a hockey mask that punched out monsters, it would fit perfectly into that scenario. And there's the evil one, the Mask of Terror, saying, Rick, you will suffer. And our mask says, ignore it. He's using telepathy on you. All right, I'll ignore it. But I can't ignore the fact that my life meter is almost gone and I'm out of extra lives, so this may not go well. Unless I find some life-restoring orbs here somewhere. Nope. I'm dead. I could, of course, use a continue, but the whole point of this video is to show you a spooky, scary game for the Halloween season. And Splatterhouse, while comical, definitely embraces the horrific side of things with consequences to people you care and love if you don't succeed in your mission. But then, of course, if you don't succeed in a Majora's Mask game, the whole world gets crushed by the moon and everybody dies. So there's always consequences in video games, and it doesn't mean they turn you into a monster. It just means they make you want to succeed at the goal you're trying to achieve. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, as always. Thank you for watching.